In today's episode, we will be talking about this book right here behind me, entitled "The Quran and the Aramaic Gospel Traditions" by Emran El-Badawi. And I'm extremely privileged and honored to have the author himself with us for today's episode. So let's just jump right in. Professor Dr. Emran El-Badawi, welcome to Book Cafe podcast.
Thank you so much, Omar, for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you.
Thank you so much for making the time to speak to us today. I've been a really huge fan of your work for many years now. It really is a pleasure to be able to speak to you directly. So, Professor, we'll get to talking about your book in a minute, but for our viewers and listeners who haven't actually read the book yet and who might be discovering you for the very first time, do please take this moment to tell us a little bit more about yourself. Specifically, I'm really interested to know a little bit more about your cultural background as well as your education background, where you grew up, what you do for a living, in fact, anything at all that you'd like to share with us.
Okay, Omar, that's a lot, and I'm privileged to have this platform to share my story with you and your viewers and your audience. I was born in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I am of mixed ethnic linguistic background, part Middle Eastern, part South Asian. My mother Egyptian, and even that is sort of a Middle Eastern mix. And then my late father was Malaysian of Bengali background. So that's something I can elaborate upon if you like. Being from Malaysia and many parts of Southeast Asia, it's very common to have these kind of mixed marriages. I know that here in the United States, I know you're involved in the United States. In the U.S., there's a certain sort of mixed marriage, American melting pot mentality, as though it's something newfangled and amazing. It is amazing, but it's not new, and it's been around forever. So I'm a product of a third culture that came from Malaysia and was extracted, and then we lived sort of in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the part of our family was in the UK, and part was in Egypt, and then the United States. And even within the US, I've been I call it the westward migration. It was, from the East Coast to the Midwest to now the Southwest, right here in Houston, Texas. What can I say about myself? Because I am ethnically, and have lived in different societies, I've had the opportunity and the burden of trying to make sense out of the world around me. I never belonged. That is the most important thing I want to communicate, is that feeling inside me as a young man, even as a young boy, that I don't belong. I'm an outsider. And many of us may have felt like this, and many of us might feel like this all the time. But this limit came for me as strength, and it allowed me to think critically, to see the way people behave from outside, themselves, because I didn't belong. And anyway, just to, I think that has shaped who I am as a person, trying to be kind to other people who are outsiders, and trying to therefore read and study the world around me with a ferocious intensity that other people around me, my peers, didn't have. So I got interested in, my number one love actually was geography. I would look at maps all day long. I wasn't so much actually into polls. I feel that was missing in my life, but I loved maps. And then it got me into culture, into religion, into society and history, all these things. I got deep into the humanities. I even dabbled with the social sciences. And I studied languages, Arabic, English, French, and I later on my graduate school in Persian, and obviously the ancient languages, Syriac, Aramaic, Greek, etc., like that. I did my undergraduate at Rutgers University in New Jersey. I did my master's in Temple University in Philadelphia, and my PhD at the University of Chicago in the Department of Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations. This book that we're talking about today, my first book, was based on my dissertation, and I have since moved to Houston, Texas, where I'm a faculty member in the Department of Modern and Classical Languages. I'm also director of Middle Eastern Studies. I'm a faculty in Arabic and Middle Eastern Studies, and a chair for all languages and all culture. I'll stop here.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Professor. And you can imagine my surprise when I found out that your late father was of Bengali descent from West Bengal, if I'm not mistaken, correct? From Kolkata?
Yes, sir. Yes, correct.
Okay, wonderful. So you are quite the polyglot. So I have to ask you, do you speak any Bengali at all? or no?
I I have I unfortunately don't speak Bengali. I did have the opportunity when my late father passed when I was a young boy. I remember him fondly and well, and he was an amazing example, but also a very highly cerebral and sort of towards the end a very quiet individual. He carried a lot of untold stories and I think some scars which he never had time to tell me. But he took us on trips to Calcutta. I was born. He took us on a couple of trips to Dhaka. I've been there, and I have very fond memories of Dhaka. I was a child, but you know, I remember delicious food. I remember mines, floods, very green foliage. I remember also some riots because I remember there was the hartal that I would hear about this sort of you know riots that would happen.
Right. I see.
One thing about wanted to mention is so I don't typically talk about my father at all, but he you know he married an Arab woman in Malaysia, sort of this mixed marriage, and I think that part of that was you know, he kept certain scars from I think this sort of post partition India
Mhm.
that you know is a subject for another day, and I couldn't delve deeply enough to it because I myself was just a child when he left you know Bengal you know West Bengal and he got his education in the UK and he sort of never turned back and it left us sort of curious what's going on here, but there were some scars. Some of it had to do with family issues. His you know there was a big patriarch in the family and also had to do with you know the political situation. But you know I have a very soft spot in my heart for Bengali people. It's part of who I am. I take pride in it, and it's also sort of a best kept secret. How is the director of Arab Studies here at Houston, you know, of Bengali origin? But so it's just a nice story, and I'm happy to be part of the club.
Wow, amazing, amazing, and thank you so much for sharing that, Professor. Because you know, it really is a privilege being an ethnic Bengali myself to be able to claim you as one of our own. And whatever you do, you know, your success in Houston at the university is also our success. So you know, kudos to you for everything that you've done so far. And I really look forward to you know jumping in and talking about the book.